Hi everybody. So I thought I'd start a new series where I talk about books that I like. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is RLMathewson. Well, she's the author, not the book. And she does like a few series. How do you say that word? I'm not quite sure. Anyway, she has a few which I do love, but my favourite one is the Neighbour from Hell series. So, that is the one we are going to talk about today. So the first book in the series is called Playing for Keeps, and this stars Jason Bradford and Haley. I can't remember what her second name is. Anyway, the premise of the Neighbour from Hell books is that they emigrated to the US from England, but there is like a book explaining it all. That's the fourth book in the series called Truce. But basically, Robert Bradford was cursed, and the curse was that he is always hungry. But it's in like the way she writes it is just hilarious. Like they get kicked out of buffets, and they're like, if they don't have any food, they're like dying, and they're all dramatic. But they don't get fat. They're hot. And it's about their journeys finding the loves of their life. And the premise is that they always fall in love with their neighbour. Now, it could be someone who's just moved in, it could be someone that's there for a while. There's always some drama that happens, and then they end up obviously like falling in love. So, but it's not like in a cheesy way. Like the author is fantastic. She mixes humour with the romance, and even like the sex scenes are not like overly graphic. If you're into that, fair dues. But yeah, I'm not into an overly graphic scene. So if stories have that, I usually tend to skip. But yeah, she's just really good. So this starts off with Jason and Haley, and they live next door to each other. They also work together as well, which there's a little bit of tension there as well. Now, in the start of it, Haley thinks that Jason is a bit of a sort of Jack the Lad, because her first like meeting with him was him waiting for the realtor to come to the house he was going to buy next to her, having like, he's had a big drink, so he ends up like peeing on a tree in the front yard because he can't wait for this realtor to turn up. So she's like thinking, oh my God, you're just disgusting. And then it's 5 years later before you actually know that they're then going to start talking. And in that like 5 years, he's at parties. He's like a typical bachelor in the fact that his garden isn't mowed, and you know, stuff like that like really annoys her because she's very house proud. Anyway, 5 years have gone past, and they sort of like, she doesn't like him, he doesn't really have much to do with her because she won't talk to him, and that's how they have their life. And then on this particular day, when they're about to like talk for the first time, if as such, the reason that she ends up like talking to him is because he's ripping up some flowers in her garden, and she's like, oh hell no. And she's quite shy, so she never really confronts anyone, and like she basically gets walked all over at work. But this time she thinks to herself, no, I am not having this, they're like my special flowers. So she runs out, and she basically dives on his back and says like, what the hell are you doing there, my flowers? And he's like telling her to get off his back and everything. And it turns out there is a hornet's nest. I think it's hornets. It's been a while since I've read it. And they're like swarming because they've obviously disrupted them. They've had to then quickly leg it into her house because it's the nearest house, because they've started to swarm, and they have to get a exterminator to come and move the nest. So obviously at this point he's like, shit, I'm stuck in her house, she don't like me, you know what's going to happen. But they end up, because it's been like hours, and she is a Yankees fan, and there's a Yankees game on, he's a Yankees fan, and they end up like talking, and then they end up realising that they're actually like both cool. So she thinks, oh yeah, you know, he might be a slob, but he's actually a funny guy, and they can like talk about their love of the sport and stuff like that. And they end up like thinking like, yeah, we'll be friends. So then she starts going to like his house parties and things like that, and realizing that they weren't as like scary as she thought. But she's like trying to come out of comfort zone at this point, because she's decided like, how many people has she misjudged throughout the years, because like she's insecure and she could have been making some lifelong friends type things. which can happen. I'm proof of that. Then you find out as like the story goes on that her family are horrible because they're wealthy. They're like really snobby and stuck up, and she's not like that, and they get like everything wrong. Like her dad always forgets her birthday. So when she's at this like family shindig, he gives her a birthday card, and obviously it's like months too late, but her grandma is like her best friend. She like loves her grandma, and her grandma's like really down to earth, and she was the one that started off the business to get all the money, so like she can't understand why all the kids are like spoiled little brats. Anyway, she's the one that reminded the dad that you forgot a birthday. Anyway, this birthday card ends up being 4 tickets to see the Yankees play, and she'd opened this like the card at her house, and Jason was there, and then when he sees the tickets he's like, I'm having them, and tries to run away with them, and then she like tackles him to the floor, and then he's like, right, you can take me. Anyway, she was going to anyway because like most of her friend group don't really care about the game, so she ends up going to this game with 2 of Jason's friends and Jason, and like, you know, it's a really good time. Just before the game starts, she did say to the guys, make sure you check in, because they won't hold your room type thing. And they're like, oh, it's fine, we'd saved with a credit card. So instead of like doing what she normally does, which is like sort of micromanage, she's like, they're the grown men, let them like sort it out themselves type thing. And then lo and behold, when they go back to the room, to the hotel, their room hasn't been saved because they never checked in. So one of the guys, who's a bit of a horn dog, has actually gone elsewhere to find someone else to sort of sleep with. So then Jason and the friend Brad, who's actually married, go and like beg for mercy on Hayley's door, and it's a double room, so like, you know, twin bed type thing, 2 double beds. So she's like, I told you so, and they're like, yeah, we know, but can we like, you know, come in? So she's like, fine. Anyway, Brad ends up taking 1 bed, and then Jason starts getting into the bed with Hayley, and Hayley's like, whoa, what are you doing? And he's like, no, this is not happening. And he's like, well, I'm not sharing with Brad, blah blah blah. So she's like, right, you stay on my side, you stay on your side, I'll stay on my side. Then when they wake up, they're together, not in like a Rudy sense, but they're just like gravitated towards each other, and they had the best sleep ever. And then after that, they can't sleep separately, so they like make this sort of pact to, they'll sleep together but they won't actually do anything, and you know, it's just until they like can sort themselves out. Eventually they then decide to like give it a shot, so to speak, and she is a virgin, I forgot to mention that, and she doesn't want to sleep with someone until she knows it's going to be something serious, like hopefully like marriage serious. But obviously in like today's world, it's not usually something that people talk about, so she's very much like, you know, it's her own like internal thing that she knows she's doing, she doesn't tell anyone. So she basically says to him, yes, we can sort of like have fun, but like I don't want to, you know, go all the way. And he's like, fine, but can we do other things? And she's like, yeah, that's fine. So that's how then that relationship starts. And the one thing I do like about RLMathewson is that even though she like does put the sex scenes in it, it's done in a way that's like, it's not too like over the top, it's just enough to sort of like whet your appetite without being like full on, if that actually makes sense. So anyway, fast forward, and Hayley is invited out with some girls that she went to college with. Now these college girls knew the fact that she didn't want to sleep anyone until she was like in a serious relationship and hopefully marriage, and they always used to take the mick out of her. So when she goes and meets these girls, one of the girls that's there is someone they'd invited themselves, and like they're laughing at Hayley, sort of saying, oh yeah, she doesn't want to sleep with a man until she knows that she's going to stay with him and it's like a marriage thing. And this girl's like, what? And so she feels a bit awkward, does Hayley, because it's like, why would they even mention that? And then it's like a running, like, how did you get Jason Bradford to be your, like, boyfriend when you're not having sex with him? Because, Zegs, because, you know, everyone knows that he's like a horn dog and he's fit and everyone wants to sleep with him type thing. So she feels really, like, awkward. So she goes to the bathroom. But first, in the bar where she's having this date, Jason ends up going there with his mates, and then like because she's getting fed up with her friend, she sort of sees him as she's going to the bathroom, and she just says girls' night is not going well, but like in a normal way, not in a like a pouty way. And he's like, well, do you know what, just tell them that you don't want to sit with them anymore type thing, and you can come and share chicken wings with us and the guys. And she's like, right, I just need to go to the toilet. Anyway, while she's out at the toilet, the girl who she doesn't really know, who was the friend that got brought, comes over to the table where Jason is and basically comes on to him. And because he knocks her down, because he's like, you're on a day out with Hayley, who I'm seeing, and she went, no, she's not my friend, because I would never treat anyone like she's treating you. And he goes, what are you talking about? And it's like, basically, she won't have sex with you because she knows you're not good enough for marriage. And she sort of twists it like that. So then Jason's then thinking, what, is that the reason why she never wanted to have sex? Like, she doesn't think I'm sort of good enough to marry or anything like that. And obviously, like, it's a man, they do stupid things. So he takes it like personal affront. What's the word I'm looking for? He takes it personal anyway, and thinks that it's because he thinks that she thinks he's not good enough, when that's not the case. But he then makes a boo-boo where he gets in his head about it, and he ends up seducing her. And they do end up going all the way. And she's like, right, it's not the first time that I thought I was going to get, but it's fine. I'm going to like be serious about him. But then when they're finished, he stupidly says, I knew they weren't being serious. And then she's like, what are you talking about? And then he explains what the girl's done. And she went, let me get this straight. You just took my virginity, because he didn't know she was a virgin, just to prove a point to some cows that were supposed to be my friend type thing. And he's like, oh, I think I fucked up here. So then she like storms off, won't talk to him. And then all through like the school like things, she just won't talk to him, because obviously he's really sort of blown it, and she's like really upset. So she had booked like a getaway for him to go to, so she's still going to go on it because she doesn't want to lose the money that she's paid on it. But she's obviously just going to go on her own, because she's not going to go with him, because she's not talking to him. Why is that brighter than the other? So anyway, so she's like, I'm going to go to this holiday on my own. I'm not going to lose my money in about it. And as she's driving, she stops at like a service station, and she picks up some like bakery items and like a large fresh orange. And as she's driving along, like she's sort of like chunnering to herself, because she's like, oh great, I'm eating my feelings, because she realises that the bakery items are going way faster than she thought they were going to go. And it's only as she's driving along that she sees a hand come from the back seat, and she realises that, like, obviously she's scared, but then she realises it's Jason. He's snuck in the car, and he's the one that's been eating all the stuff as she's been driving along, because he's like not letting her run away, and he's gonna, you know, he's basically trying to get her back type thing. So they end up going and having like, it's actually really funny if you read the book, sorry, like all the things that go on is like really funny. So it's definitely one to read. But long story short, he realises that she's never going to forgive him for what happened, and he's basically like, right, I'm going to go and I'll like stay out of your life, because, you know, maybe I was never good enough for you. And then she realises, shit, I've made a big mistake. But at this point, he now won't talk to her, to the point where he's trying to sell his house as well. So she keeps like sabotaging the viewings so that no one wants to move in. And in the end, I can't remember. Like, I can't remember what happened. Like, he ends up falling asleep, and she ends up tying him to a chair. And when he comes to, she's like, she kind of like seduces him, and she's like, and he's like having none of it. It's like, I know you don't really want me, you know, it's fine, you've made your feelings super clear, this is the way it has to be now, I'm just going to leave. And he's going to leave his job as well. That's how much he realises he wants her so much, but he doesn't want to be around her if he can't have a type thing. Anyway, she ends up saying to him, do you really want me to do all these things with another man? And he ends up like saying, no, you're mine. You know, so you know things are going to be all together. And then it ends with 10 years pass, and it shows you things like that. Obviously there is more to the story going on. I just want to sort of give you a brief outline, but it is such a good series. The whole premise of the series, which you will see throughout if you do read the whole series, is the fact that the men are gorgeous and they always fall in love with their neighbour. And it doesn't necessarily mean their immediate neighbour. It could be someone that's been there a while. It could be someone who just moved in. But it always ends up with being the neighbour, hence neighbour from hell. And there's always some sort of drama that goes on. And in between it all, there's also, like I say, the eating thing. Like, they can't control themselves eating. Some of the romance interests do bake, which is always dead good because they're always obsessive. And then some of them like can't bake, which is funny in itself. That's in like perfection. Like, Zoe cannot cook to save her life, and it's just hilarious. So they always have some sort of drama like that. There's always like a food related incident, but like I say, it's like really, really funny the way the author does it. You don't feel like it is daft, but at the same time it's just part of the fun. So there's always that. And then throughout it all, there's always like funny incidents, and you can guarantee that there's going to be some drama regardless of what it is. You will see some of the family members that then eventually get their own books. So it all like ties everything in, and then as the series goes on, their love interests are in the new ones, and it's like a continuation of it. Even though each book is for each individual couple, there's still like side things going on, which I really, really do love and enjoy. I think it's just really nice. I think what I liked about Hayley's is that she's a beautiful woman, like, you know, the way she's described by the author, but she's not your blonde bombshell, which you'd expect like a really hot muscular man to go with. So I think it's nice that they are that she does make it so that the women are like relatable as such. That is a really, really pigmented blush. So yeah, it is a really good story to start off with. Like I say, RLMathewson does other series as well. So yeah, let me know if this style of video is entertaining for you, and yeah, I will see you in the next one for perfection.